Thursday Threatpoint. Down in the custody hole. Dirt in her nails, blood on your hands. Sand rains down, and here I sit, holding rare flowers in a tomb. It's 2:07 a.m., and the only light in the room is from my phone screen. I'm toggling between a rescheduled exchange from my kid's mom and a school memo for the kindergarten field trip next week that, well, surprise, surprise, she never forwarded. Nothing hostile, no threat, just a perfectly calibrated omission that leaves me looking like the disengaged parent if I miss it. It's not always malicious, but it's never accidental. And this is the part no one sees. The quiet watchtower of fatherhood in a split custody backdrop. No audience, no echo, just fingerprints on paper he hopes will outlast the lies. I wrote about in my last essay how women negotiate covertly. That power is never given, only taken. All true. What it didn't prepare me for was the absence. The part after you've built frame, walked away, done the work, and no one shows up to validate it. Because they're not supposed to. You're the man. There's no praise, no nod. Just a system watching you for your next mistake. He wasn't dying, just thinking. Lane Staley died alone, surrounded by needles, tapes, crumpled lyrics, and the ghosts of a band that couldn't pull him back from the edge. The autopsy said 2 weeks before anyone found him, but the truth? He was already gone long before that. That's the real danger of isolation. Silence. There's a very specific loneliness that comes from parenting in the dark. Not just the literal, but also the spiritual one. The part where your own parents aren't checking in, where your ex posts curated co parenting photos with captions about what matters most, while your own kid's anxiety worsens. And you have to stay composed because losing your shit is a strategic liability. You're not parenting with support, you're managing a fucking crisis portfolio. I wrote about drugs, and I didn't think I was being unsafe or careless by writing about them. I didn't want my fans to think heroin was cool. But then I saw all these kids thinking it was. Lane Staley in a 1996 interview. The quiet doesn't make you stronger, it makes you disappear slower. Lane didn't die screaming, he faded quietly. And that's the part no one gets. And maybe that's what this stage of fatherhood feels like. Not rage, not fight, just the slow leak of a man trying to stay composed while watching his son lose sleep, miss field trips, and shrink inside his own skin. You just sit there at 2:14 a.m. staring at an empty inbox and a calendar she never shared. It's not the injustice that breaks you, it's the fact that no one else sees it. And the parts of you that once believed someone might, your friends, your parents, start to go quiet too. So you keep logging, because if you don't leave a trail, you'll forget the man who tried. Because some fathers don't get a eulogy, just a silent collapse under the weight of doing everything right, alone. Briffault was right, but silence hits harder. Briffault's law. The female, not the male, determines the conditions of the animal family, and where the female derives no benefit from association with the male, no such association takes place. Now extend that to the grandparents, the court system, your friend circle, and the teacher who gets only one version of the story. They're all governed by the same calculus: perceived benefit. Not fairness, not facts, but utility. So, what happens when you're not flashy or emotionally volatile, or when you're stable, reliable, and archiving your own sanity one timestamp at a time? You disappear because the chaos is always louder. You don't realize most people don't want dads to win, they want dads to comply. Without disrupting the narrative, the mom is the son, and you're lucky just to orbit. You were told to be the unpaid crisis manager, not because it works, but because your suffering is less disruptive to the ecosystem. Would they even notice? You don't even realize how bad it's gotten until you're sitting in the car on a Monday morning trying to hold it together because your kid asked why you're not going to the zoo field trip, and you didn't even know there was one because it was in the handout that wasn't forwarded. Because even though you're on the email list, it still wasn't forwarded. Because her version of co-parenting is information asymmetry and plausible deniability. So you do what the court says. Communicate respectfully. Document concerns. Follow the order. Then you think of Lane. Only in this case, it's not drugs. It's family court. It's isolation. It's watching your son shrink inward while the system smiles at your silence. No excuses, just erosion. The RP told me you cannot negotiate desire. Fair, but here's the thing. In court, everything is a negotiation. In life, everything is a negotiation. You're not negotiating desire, you're negotiating optics, perception, email tone, your ability to absorb nonsense without giving the other side an opening. There's no frame test in court. There's procedural erosion. You either prove you can lead in silence or get strangled by the narrative. And you better believe your ex knows this, and our counsel knows this. Hell, even the judge knows this. That's why she files late, sends last-minute changes, and avoids formal replies. She's not scared. She's testing your discipline, your paper trail, your ability to outlast the drip, drip, drip erosion of strategic bullshit. Jar of pain, binder of proof. When I was still drinking, the 2 a.m. spiral looked a bit different. It was whiskey and texts I'd never send. Fantasies of smashing the windshield of her car just to make her see me, to feel what I was going through, to acknowledge that this calm exterior was the product of war, not weakness. Now, it's cleaner, sharper. I print the exchange log, I prep my Dropbox folder, update the parenting time summary. I play the long game. Because the truth is, there's no one coming. The only thing that makes the 2 a.m. isolation bearable is knowing that every click, every entry, every highlight is how you stay sharp in a system built to dull you. Not for the validation, not for praise, but because when the hearing finally arrives and she's trying to paint you as rigid, reactive, or uninvolved, You'll slide the tabbed binder across the table and let the receipts talk. You built it because you had to. Because the only difference between a good dad who loses and one who walks away with dignity is the receipts, the quiet work. So you sit there at 2:17 a.m., calendar open, school memo copied, exchange log updated, and you realize no one will ever see this moment. No one will thank you for it, but it's the most fatherly thing you'll do all month. This isn't about martyrdom. It's how men survive in a system built for ghosts.